Hello, everyone. Welcome to Web3 Marketing Podcast. I'm Dasha, as always. And today we have with us Tim Halderson, the founder of Lunar Strategy agency from Portugal, and also founder of a new ICP Hub that's based in Portugal. Tim, hi. I'm super excited to have you again on my podcast.
Yeah, always happy to be here and talk about what's happening in the Web3 space and in Portugal. So super happy to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you. So, the goal today is to understand what's happening in Portugal in terms of the Web3 scene. If I'm a Web3 founder or I work in Web3 and I go spend a lot of time in Portugal, what would be the benefits for me? Also, maybe there are some disadvantages, maybe some recent changes. I want to know everything. I'm not in Portugal myself. You're there, but I am planning to move there, hopefully by the end of next year. So I'm super curious. But let's start with a short intro about your background, what you're doing in Web3, what's your agency, and what's this, like briefly, what's this hub that you're building?
I joined the crypto space back in 2017. I was traveling in Asia in total like 2 years in South Korea and in Asia. And then I got home to Sweden. I was like, okay, so now we need to plan what's next. So about 5 years ago, I moved to Portugal and was back then working in marketing. So more traditional marketing for like tech companies back in 2018. And then 2019, I was like, okay, now is the time because I was a crypto investor and all the money I saved up, I invested into different crypto projects. And so then I was like, okay, so let's merge the two. And that's how I started with crypto marketing. And then for the last 4 years, I've been helping different protocols, ecosystems grow and expand the reach. And then about 4 months ago, we launched a hub here in Portugal for ICP, so Internet Computer, one of the top protocols. And over the last 3, 4 months, we have been basically hosting a lot of events in Portugal, conferences, speaking at conferences, and we have been doing a lot of community growth here in Portugal for ICP and to accelerate their ecosystem. So that's a bit on my background. And so I'm a marketeer, storyteller, and that's what I do.
I want to mention your agency. It's called Lunar Strategy. I think you're doing an amazing job. I personally am a big fan of the content you're creating. I didn't work with you, but almost worked with you. And hopefully we'll do it one day. So just want to mention it, but because I think you have a great team and you're building something cool.
Yeah, I think we've always focused on like education a lot. I've written 2 books on crypto marketing, a new one coming out soon. And yeah, like I like to share ideas and vision. And I think especially when you've been quite a few years in crypto, you can come with a bit of an unique perspective. And on Twitter, especially, a lot of people value when you can add some good feedback and add some good unique insights to it and add that to the conversation.
I agree. All right. We're going to talk about the ICP Hub and what you're doing there a bit later. But first, you said that, you started crypto marketing after you moved to Portugal. So Portugal was with you along the way all the time, right? So can you share if it influenced somehow the growth of your agency or your personal growth as an expert in Web3 marketing being in Portugal?
When I was back in Sweden, I was like seeing like what's going on in Sweden, and Sweden is not so forward in the Web3 space. Even they're very forward in SaaS tech and banking. So I think that there's a lot of other parts that they're very good at, but not in the crypto space. So what I did basically was I was looking in Europe, and then I was like, okay, so Portugal is kind of a place where good weather, surfing, a lot of expats, a lot of foreigners. So I remember early on, I was like, okay, so sounds like a good location. So I found a job here where I was working for another firm early on. And then basically when I got there, I started to go to some meetups, events, and started meeting the community. And then you saw that there was a lot of people here, and you speak with like founders, you speak with founders of like leading $100 million protocols or billion protocols, and you start to think like, okay, well, what are they doing that you can learn from? So early on here, I met a lot of like founders and a lot of people behind, and usually if you have a bit of a presence on X and have already made a bit of a name and you ask for, do you want to have a coffee? You can get quite a lot of good meetings with great projects. So early on, I did a lot of that to get to know the ecosystem. And then I think they also host almost all of the biggest events here. So Solana Breakpoint, NearCon, Web Summit, NFC Summit, another that is hosted by a great agency here. So there's a lot of events. And if you go to an event, you speak at the event, you do a lot of networking, you meet a lot of interesting people, and then you have conversations with them. So definitely being like in the center of Web3 in Europe, here in Portugal, has been very, very good accelerator for both myself and building a network. And some people even flying over here to just like, let's have a dinner out, and then we take out some clients for like a steak dinner. It attracts a lot of people that maybe just want to visit Lisbon, and then you have a meeting in the middle of it as well.
You mentioned a few events that are being held in Portugal. What's your favorite this year?
I think 2 years ago, I was speaking at NFC Summit. They do a very good job at organizing events. They've hosted it 2 years in a row now, NFC Summit. NFT focused primarily, but also Web3 in general. So they are definitely a good one, definitely going back. For Web Summit this year, we hosted 4 side events together with few like of the top partners here in Portugal for ICP. So that was a lot of fun. When you host events, like we hosted like after works and networking sessions. So Web Summit, tons of events around it. NearCon was also a good one. And then I'm not sure if it's going ahead, a Catalyst from CoinMarketCap that probably will do one next year. It's usually like 1 or 2 good every quarter. So you can pick a little bit the different ones, but definitely like the big ones, a lot of action. And then smaller ones like are happening almost every week with like smaller meetups with a few really good like community agencies here in Portugal that are hosting them.
This episode is supported by Internet Computer, and we want to tell you about their amazing Definity Grant program. We've actually received their community grant ourselves. So if you are a developer, researcher, or educator working on blockchain or AI technology, you can receive this grant too. Definity Grant program can give you up to $100,000 in funding, as well as support and exposure through the ICP ecosystem. You can read more about the grant in the description down below. And if you decide to apply, fill out our form. We will chat with everyone who applies and recommend the best projects to ICP. Don't miss this chance to get funding and join the community of innovators. Do you have moments when you overdone some networking and you need to crawl back to bed and not talk to anyone for a week?
I've been like doing mostly virtual networking on Twitter. That's my favorite way of doing it because then it can go a bit viral. I posted one Twitter post like, who's in location X and is a Web3 founder I want to meet up. And I think I got like 50 replies from it. So I think I personally like to do like virtual networking on X and LinkedIn. But after Web Summit week with like 4 events, also attended lots more. It's an intense weekend, but also a lot of fun and so on.
Did I get it right that you mean more of like starting from virtual networking and then taking your, connections offline with those people you're most like interested into this kind of stuff? Because if you posted a tweet and 50 people replied, you probably
Yeah.
went for a coffee with like, I don't know, 1 or 2 of them, right?
I think especially with like when you're trying to meet the right people, because in the crypto space, like a lot of the experience a lot of people have when they go to an event is that people are trying to sell you their own NFT. They're trying to sell you their own project, and they're kind of like, oh, buy this, buy this, buy that. So I think that to organize like meetups and like smaller groups is also very powerful. But of course, like events as well can be fun, especially if you want to meet a lot of people and get like a little bit of temperature check what's going on in the ecosystem. When there's a bull market, you can see like smile on people's faces. And then in a bad market, you can see like the whole like vibe is a little bit less optimistic.
What would you say the temperature is right now in Web3?
You can see like memes going viral on Twitter and it's a lot of fun right now. the last 6 months, we have been like focusing on building throughout all of it. But the last 3 months have been super duper, duper exciting. You can see like people are like new projects are launching. People that have been waiting for like 2, 3 years, they've just been like sitting, waiting, building. Now they're like pulling the trigger. So at the moment in Q4 and Q1, I think we will have incredible markets, and then we will see what happens. But a lot of fun right now.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned a few events, right? Let's talk about more of maybe offline communities, offline projects that are based in Portugal, or maybe just some companies that are hosting some activities in Portugal. Like, who would you call? Maybe a few names. If I was preparing for my trip to Portugal, what should I Google?
There's quite a lot of good co-work spaces. So I know CB Labs have launched their own hub. So they're like a VC firm that have launched like a hub in Lisbon. Then it's Side that are also like a kind of like an incubator accelerator. Then there's like other products like Sarta Finance, like NFT loans, like your low NFTs as collateral. Then Chili Banks, another event agency. There's a lot of interesting ones. And I think one of the biggest ones is also real, like a GameFi sports project. So like, I think that on one layer, there is co-working spaces that are Web3 focused, like CV Labs are doing one thing, Poolside are doing another thing. And then there is maybe another one or two ecosystems. I know, of course, for ICP, for Polygon, I have also like a builder house, and then individual projects as well that are launching. Based in Lisbon is also another one. Community building, Web3 integration, based in Lisbon, where we have done some partnerships with them. Super cool, super good team, strong team behind them. So yeah, it's like a good mix of projects that are both like providing the infrastructure with the co-working and the incubation and those parts. Then there's different projects that are launching, and then VCs. And yeah, I think that Portugal covers pretty much the whole ecosystem. I would put it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for mentioning so many cool projects. We're gonna tag them all. We're gonna put the links for them because I want everyone who's listening to just, go and follow them and explore what they're doing. And hopefully I'll meet you all there as well in a few
Yeah.
months.
We will welcome you warmly. We can,
Thank you.
I think like in Portugal, there's like both on Meetup, Luma, and Eventbrite, all of those like event platforms. If you
Hmm.
just put in like crypto, Web3, you will get like weekly meetups, maybe 2 or 3 at different like bars with like 10, 15 people. We also have a Web3 marketing dinner that we host that some other people are hosting, like and curate smaller communities and then the bigger ones. The app and the apps, you can easily find tons of events to go to.
Tell me a bit more about what you're building at the ICP Hub in Portugal, because it is part of the whole networking scene, as I understand. You're hosting events. Ideally, let's start from why did you get into it?
So when it comes to ICP, some people from our team has been monitoring it very closely for I think for the last 6 years or something. So a very long time. Then I got in contact with their team about they had just started to launch different hubs in Europe. So a hub has kind of like as the goal to bring together the whole community in a local region. So our mission with the hub is to connect developers with entrepreneurs that are building projects, connect them with VCs that are like funding it, and then marketeers that are telling the stories. Because a lot of ecosystems gives out grants to developers to just build, but if you build and nobody uses your product, it's useless, it's pointless. So the goal of the hub is kind of like it's work as a local embassy in the region where you can connect all the different parts to it to make sure that community grants actually contribute to the ecosystem and you don't just spend 5 million on building a wallet that has 5 users. So there's kind of that part of it where the hub's mission is to incubate, grow, launch projects, and accelerate the local ecosystem. We also hosted different events with like meetups with the under the ICP name, where we talk about the mission. Also speaking at the event like new economics, and then join podcasts with the spaces, creating content. We've also hosted some smaller competitions to bring the whole ICP ecosystem together and accelerate great projects and connecting, like, because developers are generally not good marketeers. Marketeers are generally not good developers. VCs are kind of in the middle between the two. And then you also need the marketeers to actually talk about it and create the stories, the narratives, and get it out there. So our mission is to connect all of the dots and launch great projects to launch on the ICP, to put it simply.
But it's all focused on people who are currently in Portugal, right? And are building for ICP or promoting ICP or coding something on IC, right?
So in Portugal, our hub is locally focused in Portugal and the regions around. We also plan to next year also host like some shared European hackathons and events so that we can collaborate with like the German hub, the Balkan hub, and other hubs. So like a hub, you could view it a little bit like as an embassy in the local market, with where we take a local approach to help the Portuguese ecosystem. So if you're launching in another other country, there's probably another hub there. But the main goal is to provide a localized approach where we can reach all of the key people in the local region and then bring it up to scale, so to speak.
How do you see it? Like, what's the main challenge that ICP builders are facing besides the what you already mentioned that, devs and marketers should work together
Yeah.
on growing the user base and the awareness of the products? Is there something else that you noticed working with the projects from the ecosystem?
I think a lot of ecosystems are, we only need to build a little bit more, build, develop. That's the only word that comes into it. And I think that's a general problem, because building is only good if you build things that people want to use and that people will use. So as a lot of ecosystems struggle with that, not the ICP per se. ICP has a lot of great projects that have launched on them. Right now you can use Bitcoin on the ICP, you can use Ethereum, soon stable coins. That there is a lot of use cases and a lot of projects that are built on ICP, but it's always like you need to showcase the use case to drive like broader adoption. So yeah, of course, like to accelerate the ecosystem, simplify it with education, bringing in new great projects and products that people are using and that are adding value. I think recently, like a project that I saw last week that is not from Portugal, but is doing well on ICP. It's like real world asset backed tokens. There was like a gold back one launching on ICP that was doing really well. So a lot of different projects like that. But of course, you need to focus on how can you add value to users' life. And building is important because you need the best tech, which arguably ICP got, like with the vision of creating like the world computer and multi-chain ecosystem where everything kind of merges in together into one. So I think that a lot of good things are happening, but you also need adoption.
Yeah, that's true. I noticed it myself while meeting a lot of projects from ICP for my podcast. It is a struggle these days, adoption. It's not easy, but I think the tech is developing. So now as it's more interconnected, different chains, I think it's gonna definitely go up. And you can see how the token performing these days, and it's pretty positive. I think the market is reacting well on the new changes and developments that are happening. What I noticed myself personally, the vibe is really really nice. A few teams that I met, I personally just fell in love with them, and
Yeah.
we're gonna keep working together because such great people, really. But mostly devs, yes, mostly devs, mostly building. So I hope me and you together we can bring more marketers on board because that's definitely something that's
Of
needed right
course.
now. What about the downsides of being in Portugal? Especially, I'm interested in like any regulations. I know nomads are not happy in Portugal anymore because the situation with taxes is about to get worse.
I think people will always find a reason to complain. I've never used any of like the tax schemes in Portugal, like the NHR or those things. We run our company here. We pay normal taxes, we pay social security, we pay probably like 40% on average for salaries and so on. It is kind of like the European standard taxes. And I think that we are more than happy to pay it from our side. I know a lot of friends that have done the NHR where you get like a lower tax bracket and so on. But they're removing that in Portugal. They're removing that in basically all over Europe. Maybe in Malta you can get some benefits, but I think that people should focus more on having more income to to be taxed instead of trying to avoid taxes, because that's a more healthy way of viewing it. Like where try to add more revenue to your business or try to earn more instead of trying to avoid taxes. As the core part. In Portugal, there's like quite slow bureaucracy and so on. I think that's one challenge, but as long as you have a good lawyer or an agency to help you with all of the taxes and everything, then it works out perfectly fine. Then I think recently in kind of in level with all European cities, the rent prices has been going up quite drastically, which is similar to what happened in like Barcelona, London, and all major European cities. And right now, I think you would not classify Portugal as super cheap, which you maybe did 5 years ago, because it has probably doubled in the last 5 years. So like things has gone up, but inflation has also driven up salaries and other things as well. Maybe those would be like the downsides.
Is there a problem for companies, maybe like yours as well, that get paid in crypto from their clients? Or is everything is like, is it the same as everywhere, or is it more convenient in Portugal if you're getting revenue in crypto?
I would put the same as everywhere.
Okay. Do you ever consider like moving somewhere else to have things easier? Maybe I understand you're not into reducing taxes, but maybe, in terms of just the operational side of things that you need to run, like, I don't know, Dubai or somewhere else similar.
Yes. Potentially. Like I think in Europe or like in maybe southern France, maybe in a few years, like buying a summer house there or something. If the crypto market goes well, and then, of course Sweden as well, maybe having something there. But I definitely see myself in this part of Europe. Um, Dubai it's not really attracting me in that way. To Dubai is like a like a massive city that is super like in the forefront of Web3. I think like if as a company we might have a team there, like on business development or a sales team there, that makes sense. But to live, probably not. Maybe somewhere in like France, southern France, or Sweden could be an option. London, always. I like London, and maybe like a little bit outside London somewhere. It also would be good for crypto, but I think it's more important, like if you're like in a sales role or business development or partnership manager, in those cases, like to be in the center of like Dubai or to be in London makes a lot of sense because then you're like in the middle of the action.
If you had to rate, where is the biggest action you've seen in terms of, Web3 projects, networking, and so on?
Last year, I went to New York for to speak at NFC Summit, NFT NYC. New York, of course. Also been to Miami. Miami is like on fire in the Web3 space. So Miami and New York. In Europe, I would probably say London, Lisbon, Paris. That's probably the top three in Europe. Paris, a lot of things are happening. NFT Paris, I'm going there next year in February. And then in Asia, Seoul, Korea, people are going crazy about crypto. Bali as well. And I know Singapore and Hong Kong are also quite good in that part. We have worked with clients from like Singapore and Bali as well. Bali client probably here. You could probably call Dubai like more towards Europe here in the center. Dubai is, I have lots of friends that are living there. And they all say, Tim, you need to come over. There's so much crypto stuff going on here. In Europe, Lisbon is definitely one of the most attractive regions to host like events in and host big meetings in, because it's a very central town in Europe. Super easy to fly in, super easy to fly out. Good weather during the summer half of the year. Like one of them, like tons of great restaurants. So it's a very logical city to host a big event in, which is why, yeah, during Web Summit, it's like 70,000 people or 80,000 people that comes to Lisbon for just 1 week. So there's a lot of these, like the big ones that provides a lot of opportunities.
Thank you so much for sharing your views, sharing your tips. I think it's going to be useful for everyone who is working in Web3, but more in the remote
Yep.
mode like me and doing everything online rather than, being involved in offline Web3 communities. But I think we're all getting there anyway. We're all getting into offline these days. And the ICP building so many offline hubs is kind of, riding the wave that is starting.
It's very exciting times to be in crypto. And with ICP, we have big plan for Q1 and Q2 to support the Portuguese ecosystem. And for projects that are launching, that just reach out to us on the Web3 Hub. And we are happy to support with acceleration and make sure that we can go to market together.
What would you recommend for someone who is building something in crypto and about to move to Portugal or about to move and to start building in crypto besides reaching out to you and joining the hub?
Go to crypto Twitter, Portuguese crypto Twitter, and research a bit.
Follow
there's,
Tim and see what he's doing.
there's a lot of fun people on crypto Twitter that are in Portugal that are super happy to help. Like you can see some of them have like Portugal in their location. Reach out to some of them. Just ask, "Hi, how are things going? I'm going to go here, and maybe we can do something together." They're very open, and in Portugal especially, yeah, people want to support the Portuguese ecosystem to accelerate. Also, potentially, like go to Meetup, the app Meetup. It's probably the biggest Meetup app. Just put in crypto or Web3, and you will get like 10 different events. You can have a look at them. There are some places that host like a weekly Degen meetup, sometimes like a weekly GameFi meetup. Just join a few of those events. They usually have like a bit of an introduction, like a bit of a talk, and then you have some drinks and meet up with some crypto people, and then you build from there.
Thank you so much, Tim. So I encourage you all who's listening to us or watching us right now, go follow Tim on Twitter, follow the ICP Portuguese Hub on Twitter as well. And obviously, if you want to learn more from Tim, listen to our first episode that we did on content marketing with him. And again, go see what he's doing on Twitter because apparently it's really working. And we should all do that. Thank you so much, Tim, for your insights. Always a pleasure chat with you. Thank you for sharing the knowledge and experiences.
Always here. Let me know if anything else.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, like and follow us for more. We also have a newsletter and a Telegram channel. Check it out at web3marketingpodcast.com. See you in the next episode.